Well, how about we do another surf report while we wait for the world to collapse? The lights to go out. It hasn't happened yet. It's Wednesday, the 11th of August. This surf report for the 12th to the 18th. But last surf report was spot on with something that I don't think a lot of people saw coming, at least, like a month ago or so, which was a key resignation. And remember, that resignation came from a rave mandala, which was in the cycle of a new moon. So there might be more resignations inside this moon period. All right, here's our overview. And guess what? I forgot to do this again. The pointer focus. Notice the congruency score. Our circles are surprisingly symmetrical, other than Dreambot. Dreambot seems to be the odd man out, but there is what appears to be violence in England, maybe, and that violence is right in the middle. The England part is not really here or there in the astrology, so that's why it sort of tips out of the astrology circle. But the I-Ching says excessive pressure. Surprise, surprise. And I don't think anybody's surprised at that. So the overall, when we look at where all of these circles intersect, that space would be called pressure and tension. And in the astrology, there is a lot to support that. But the biggest one is going to be this lunar T-square. There's another T-square in there that rubs on Saturn, and that's the status quo. That's the foundation. That's the government. There's a T-square on Saturn, and that'll be interesting. But I think the biggest energy for this excessive pressure is going to be the emotional side of things, the lunar T-square. So we'll talk all about that. We have one last week here with only 4 retrogrades, because next surf report will have 5 retrogrades with Uranus. We have a lot of oppositions. We have a lot of inconjuncts. We'll talk about what those mean. We have Mercury going into Virgo, Mercury meeting with Mars. We have Mars trine Uranus. We have a grand Earth trine. There's so much to talk about, and we'll do that day by day. We'll break that down for you. But overall, there's a lot of pressure, and it's matched with the I-Ching. It's matched clearly with the Dreambot, although they don't use the word pressure. I'll show you. It'll be clear. And then hence we have a high congruency score. So, and I have 2 rave mandala reports for this week, because last week was pretty accurate. So I thought, let's pay attention to these raves. All right, folks, let's get started after this. First things first, Dreambot. Are you ready? Let's zoom in. This is people's dreams all over the world. And here's what's first surprising. There's a lot to look at. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here on this Dreambot. At the top is August and Aug, A-U-G, are the top words. Now, this is not unusual because it's August, but it is unusual that these words typically come at the very first part of the month. We've gone, 11 days now? And I just look at the time, it's 11:11. That's crazy. So anyway, August, it shouldn't be here. It shouldn't be here that high this late in the game. But anyway, so I don't know here or there. Maybe this is going to be a big month. Maybe that's how we look at that. I know a lot of people have said that. Now, let's look at the 2 memes. First, clearly England is in there because you have the word, where's English? Somewhere. English. And guard and palace. And you have medieval. I don't know. I think about England when I hear the word medieval, but of course that's all of Europe too. But garden, there's lots of gardens around England. So very England oriented. And then there's the blue arrows, which is everyone's on edge, and there's battle, and there's gunfire and ammo and explosions. So it's sort of violent. And can we put those together? Well, we don't always put them together, except you look at linguistic set number 1. Here, let me read it for you. English, guard, explosion, ammo, believe, flying, palace, battle, staff. That's a mouthful. And sometimes these don't read out like sentences, but you can kind of get memes through there. And it just seems like it's chock full of violence, explosions, and some of these can be metaphoric. Dreams work in the metaphor analogy. So it may not just be like gunfire explosions or bomb explosions. It could be an explosion of thought, for example. It could be the changing of the guard. You see English, guard, explosion, ammo. So yeah, it could be violent. And that's why I put a question mark on violence in England, question mark. So the first question is, can we attach England to this run and to the memes? I don't know. And can we attach like gunfire and an actual, is it literal? Is it explosion? Is it bombs? I don't know. But palace and English are there. And then guard. All those, yeah, there's guards everywhere, but it matches. It matches with the England and the palace. And there's an explosion there. So some sort of big change possible in England. Now, I will say this, with those of you who are wondering the probability of linguistics coming true, it works a lot better, a lot more predictive in nature, a lot more accurate when we also have an equal amount of intentional dreams behind whatever it is we're trying to predict. So I just noticed I was working for another client trying to get my old Project August materials accessed. And that part of the website has crashed. So I'm trying to resolve that. But in Project August, we had intentional dreaming. So people were intentionally trying to predict the future through their dreams. But we also ran the DreamBot against those dreams. And that's how we had an accuracy rate of 101 came true predictions. 101 predictions came true out of 119 predictions. And they were incredibly accurate predictions, or at least a lot of them were. So something like 2,100 people or 1,600 people are going to be taken by a outbreak. And in Project August, then in August of 2014, there was a headline out of, I think, Sri Lanka or some African country that said Ebola claims 1,600 lives. So it's like almost a verbatim prediction. And when the prediction was made several months prior to that, there was no Ebola anywhere. There wasn't a thing yet. It was May of 2014. So now back to this run. Sorry for that little jaunt down memory lane. So basically the accuracy of this linguistics, I just set it out there as interesting that the collective is thinking about these memes in particular. And I'm wondering if England is in. I know we've seen a lot of videos out of France. The French people are really standing up, including the farmers. And that's interesting. So I would just say that there's already very close to this kind of stuff over there. The next linguistic says years, earth, ill, context, annoyed. So there's years. I don't like that word, but clearly the earth is ill and it's in context and everyone's annoyed. I mean, everyone, both sides, all sides, everyone's annoyed. And it could just be the star energy, the energy in alignments. That's totally possible. But it also could be agendized as well. All right, enough there. I don't normally talk about the DreamBot to this extent, so I thought, could be worth it. All right, here's, before we get into the astrology, here's a few of our comments. The first on the right here is a whole smorgasbord of folks talking about the I do not consent, and there's the discussion about how the psyche or the universe doesn't recognize the negative side of things, and then we have some other naysayers and no, that's not true, or whatever. We're not disagreeing in our comments, but I think I find value in that. The universe doesn't, Marcella says, the universe doesn't hear negative affirmations. And I will extend that. I do know that the subconscious generally doesn't differentiate between a positive version of this statement versus a negative. So the subconscious would, if you're saying I do not consent, the subconscious might hear consent. I consent. I consent. And that matters when you're trying to do reprogramming in the subconscious, because if you're trying to say, I'm not a smoker, the subconscious hears, I'm a smoker. So what we want to do is convert it over to a positive statement like, I love breathing fresh air, or something like that. Or I have healthy lungs, something like that. But anyway, great discussion. And I agree with both sides, especially when we talk about the individual side of things. And I like that so many people are entering the discussion, like in some form or fashion, I don't consent. And even Carla said, I like this one, I only accept that which is of equal or higher vibration. Because that's so true, Carla. And the rest is, you can just say, make a blanket statement, I don't consent. Well, there's positive things happening too. So we want to make sure that we're consenting to those. So maybe we should be a little bit more detailed about what we're consenting and not consenting to. And then Let Us See It says, I love about the group is that we look for truth and respect all perspectives. Yes, I totally agree. And it's a gift to have so many amazing people to learn from. I totally agree with that. And that's why I value this tribe. Time in Nature says, of course, says, great report as always. Thank you. Spot on with experiences. Thank you. Moving forward in truth, but holding space for those still coming through. I thought that was an amazing statement. Holding room for those who are still waking up. It's going to take time to get those cobwebs off the eyes. And even us who've been sort of the open ones already still have some growing room to do when more truth comes out. So more adapting. So well said. The lies make it feel like walking through mud. Milo says, hero journey indeed, with a pit stop. And gear up, folks. This will be epic. Shout out to Milos. And QB says, talks about a dream. And I post this. I'm not going to read all of it, but the excitement was to learn how to dance in this new song, and everyone is trying it. I think it's awesome that people are expressing the positive energies, not just the negative ones. So thank you, QB, and thank you, Carla. Thank you for everybody for just expressing your truth. That's what I really want. And whether it's positive or negative, I don't care, but I like that we have both positive and negative here and differing opinions. Not for me to says, I just love this. Watching Rumble at the same time as YouTube with, YouTube on mute or whatever, or Rumble on mute. That's awesome. Thank you. Big shout out. All right, let's get into the astrology. Here's what's coming. Is Uranus next week is going to go into retrograde, and it's going to make all the far out planets, the slower planets, all in retrograde. And that's the deep subconscious material. And it's like a rewind. Everything happening is triggering you to past subconscious memories. And it's that those bring emotions. Maybe your only insight about a trigger to past material is the emotional content. And I say that importantly because we have a T-square on the moon this week, and there's your emotions. And like, where do these emotions come from? There's going to be a lot of past material coming up this week as well. We have Mars oppose Jupiter. Look out for that one. We have Mercury going into Virgo, basically getting out of a fall from Leo. So now, mind is much more clearer. Unfortunately, mind is going to sway a little bit more to be a little bit more critical and practical. And we'll talk about that. And then look at all these trines. This, as you can see, the overlap is towards the end of the week where all of them hit. And this is going to be a magical grand Earth trine. So look forward to that. All right, getting started with Thursday the 12th. So much here. Last week we talked about the triangle with Venus. She's weakened right now in Virgo. She doesn't know really. She's overly critical of herself in Virgo, and that's why she's having a difficult time. But there's that trine to Pluto, the sextile to Neptune, and then back to an opposition, back to from Neptune over to Venus. We have that triangle still. It's dashed. That means it's waning. It's on its downside. There's more important influences that are here. And one of them is Mercury into Virgo. Finally, think a lot more clear. Things are a lot more practical. Things are a lot more straightforward. On the downside, the mind is suddenly seeing all the things I have to do. It's like the hangover side. And you know damn well that you spend all your time playing around and remember, mind was weakened over on Sun. And so now you have the realization that you got to pick up the pieces. There's a lot of doing. There's a lot of critical thinking, that sort of thing. And then you've got Mars. They are in a conjunction now. It's an early conjunction, Mars and Mercury. And so there's a critical, practical, but very literal mind. And then there's this sort of guilt-trippy sense of action. It's not you're doing things because you really want to. It's you're doing things because you should, out of obligation, out of responsibility. And you put those together, you've got that very sort of laboratory, cold sort of existence. You're just doing things because you have to, sort of a thing, not because you're not living a lot of joy. Well, we're going to change that this CIRF report, but at the end of the week with the grand Earth trine, we're going to change all that around. Now, what I just mentioned, this conjunction that just started in Virgo, has a trine over to Uranus. So this is actually going to shake things up. And you're not going to be stuck in these little mini cycles of doing and thinking. And Uranus gives you insight, and those become easy. And you get the practical energy of Taurus. So, but that it's like changing a train with Uranus in Taurus. It's like a train shifts gears or shifts tracks. And these things, shifting a large, heavy object as it's going fast, trying to shift its direction is very hard. And that's the Taurus energy. So this is interesting how the fine life or the experiential existence of Taurus is channeling through the eccentricity and the anti-establishment and the freedom of Uranus to get this critical thing. And this could actually be relieving for that conjunction. And I see that as relieving. So it's an easy change of this. So you can get out of those traps pretty easy, hopefully. And then I had to mark in here with my own pen the square that's going to be here the rest of the year, which is Uranus square Saturn. It's the change that we want to see in the world. And these are pitting off against each other. And this is big and fat because it's going to be there. Then we have a new one, which is the ego and the sun in Leo, the inner child, opposing the collective, grander, wiser part of ourselves, the psyche. So I call it the inner child versus the higher self, and that balancing act. And that could be problematic for some people. And it's not a matter of if like one or the other. It's a matter of getting them into balance, putting them together for your decision making, because you don't want to just make decisions over here. The Jupiter is very optimistic, can be overly optimistic, and you might get a sign up for too many things. But at the same time, it's important to honor the inner child, not that he or she gets everything that he or she wants. But every once in a while, that inner child will rear its head. And we need to balance that in with the grander wisdom of the collective of knowledge and wisdom. All right, moving into Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. Sounds scary, huh? Adjusting and balancing. That's the name of the game. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 inconjuncts. These are all representing adjustments. So, for example, you've got Venus adjusting to optimism and wisdom of Jupiter. And that's while your sun is your identity is balancing with higher level thinking and optimism. And also you have ego adjusting to dreams. So this is another spaghetti day. There's a lot happening. There's a moon square. There's Uranus square Saturn. Lot of different energies. I think the emphasis is going to be over here on the Virgo, like I mentioned before, as Mercury gets closer to Mars. You look for these easy energies, and especially if it's going to form something later. This is sort of an emphasis point right there. Saturn, why did I say? Oh, T square on Saturn. Yep. This is right here. You've got the moon square Saturn and then Saturn square Uranus, like I mentioned before. And T square is tension. That is a direct match to the overall energy profile of the week. This is the start of it. It's pressure. Now, this one's pressure on the status quo, the way things have always been. Your habits, your shoulds, your hardships, your government, all that is being pressured. And so there's going to be a better one to match the I-Ching, and that's going to be the lunar T square on the next day, on Sunday. But isn't it interesting that on Saturday, we have a T square, the emphasis, the pressure is on Saturn, the pressure is on the status quo right here. The pressure is on the government here. And I thought because the rave did so well last week for our new moon, now it could just be because it was a monumental time, the new moon energy. That's a big one. So I decided to look at what this rave is, and so I put it into the calculator, and you get hexagram 19 on the rave. So then I posted 19. We're going to use for our solution, we're going to be using the lunar T square, okay? But I thought I'd just post this just so that you know. It's the approach. And it says that all things are interrelated, is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. I'll let you determine what that means in your life. So line 2, this is where Saturn is line 2, service. And it says the dedication of personal resources as a result of external contact. Man, that could be a lot of things. External contact. So the upside says dedication and service to the highest values. The energy to want to be of service. I'm already seeing this energy already playing out, by the way, and you're seeing both sides, multiple sides playing into this service. So some people are, doing law litigation and everything, and lawsuits and stuff, for one side or the other, both sides basically. I'm seeing the legal field as a battleground. The battleground right now, I think, is in the legal environment. So it really comes down to who placed the judges in place in what locations. Now on the decrement side, it says protracted indecision, but given the nature of this position, eventual let me read it over. protracted indecision, but given the nature of this position, eventual compliance, the need to be wanted that will eventually turn its energy to service. All right, so this is one where you can get unusually easy guilt tripped into doing something in compliance. And this is why I presented this hexagram, because this T-square is going to be a pressure for compliance. This is going to be Saturday the 14th with a T-square on Saturn is going to be a pressure for compliance. Okay? And they know this and they follow the energies as well. So this is a time to resist that. A lot of times when we do solution making for T-squares, we go to the opposite side, which is go have fun. It's Leo. Just go have fun on Saturday. That's the answer. That's one of the answers for there. I mean, obviously we have a solution for the whole week, but on this T-square, resist the idea of being pressured into compliance. Okay. Because it could happen there. But I find it interesting about this external contact thing. The dedication of personal resources as a result of external contact. All right, so it's there. There's the rave. Now on Sunday, this is the day that our solution rave is going to be calculated by, and it's the moon. It's a T-square on moon. So the emotions in Scorpio, so very deep, passionate. It's hard to even talk about them. It feels the emotions are so strong. It feels like you're going to die. It feels like you're going to drown in these things. This is the emotional tension. This is the excessive pressure. And so it's also adapting. We've got 4 or 5, I think it's 4 other in conjuncts, and one of them is Sun in conjunct Pluto. So we're adapting to ego. Ego is adapting to transformation. Your inner power is adapting to your inner child, etc., as we go. But nothing as strong as the tension. Plus, you've got this other square. It's not adding to the T-square, but it's additive in terms of overall pressure. So you got the pressure on emotions. You've got the deep obsessions, the deep, dark, possible taboo type of obsessions. And there's a lot of pressure on that. The rest of the T-square is the Sun and Jupiter. So there's a sense of, in this alignment, you've got the moon square Jupiter, and things could easily feel like you need to escape this conflict, this tension. And Jupiter's just wants to be positive. And that's the downside of too much positive, too much optimism, is that maybe you overdo things, or you it perpetuates things. It increases your estimate of what you can get done. So you overdo something, excess. This is a planet of excess on the downside. On the plus side, it's trying to offer wisdom and positivity to the situation. So here's the trick. It's this pressure will be there, and it may not be all that negative, except it's in Scorpio. So meanwhile, all this adjusting happening. On Monday, the 16th, we have Venus that's finally getting out of fall. She's not critical anymore of herself. She's home. She's home to beauty, harmony. Justice is a big thing. Equality. This is going to be a different energy on Monday the 16th as your mind and your ability to do things get closer and closer together. That's sort of the critical guilt-tripped sort of action. But meanwhile, your sense of togetherness, your sense of relationship, your sense of your own beauty is less and less self-critical and more harmonizing with other people. And this is going to be it's a big positive move in terms of our interaction with other people and our ability to harmonize with others. And then on Tuesday, we have the Venus, who just came home, is now having a trine with Saturn. That should be interesting. It's easy to struggle. That's the Saturn way, sort of a struggle, hardship. Unfortunately, going to be easy to struggle with relationships, even with, on the good hand, Venus is out of Virgo and into Libra, but on the bad hand, it's an easy trine energy, easy energy with Saturn. So expect to have some hurdles with your sense of beauty. Maybe creativity is hampered. Maybe obstacles are there for a relationship. But you'll have a few more days or about a week of this. So unfortunately now, the Grand Earth Trine, the big news on Wednesday the 18th was this Grand Earth Trine. You have Mercury and Mars that are going exact this day, exact conjunction. But on the other sides of it, we have Capricorn emotions. So emotions of earthy, practical, but getting stuff done. So very intentional and goal-oriented. And then you have Uranus. We talked about that already with Taurus. But altogether, this is a very practical day. It's not the best planets that I would have had for that, because one of the planets is Mars, is like and overthinking Mercury and very critical thinking Mercury. But all in all, you're going to have to resist this idea that there's a pressure to do stuff. That's sort of the activity of Earth, especially down here in Capricorn. And you're going to have to experience, or it's an opportunity to really just experience the world through your five senses. That's the gift of Taurus. And of course, Virgo loves to get stuff done too, and very practical stuff. But I think this day is much better. It's easier if you can imagine experiencing the world on a raft. Just be the observer. And kind of hard to do sometimes when you got the earth signs here, because they want to be in the world, material in nature. But basically their gift is that they can experience the world through their five senses. And so this Grand Earth Trine says, hey, just how about take a break? I know it's in the middle of the week. It's on Wednesday, but if you can plan out just to sit in the sun or hang out by, something pleasant. That's the Taurus energy. And Virgo does well to take care of yourself. So this is a day to take care of yourself and really feel your way through that. It's easy. If you need to get stuff done, I'd start with the small stuff. The top of the to-do list, that's some Virgo. Mercury and Virgo. Okay, let's get rid of this and let's get into the I-Ching. The influence between 8/12 and 8/18 is 28. Hexagram 28 says excessive pressure. Can't make this stuff up, can you? Something is about to collapse. The dam is about to burst. A great pressure is causing an imbalance. You don't say. Extraordinary times, really? Extraordinary times bring out the best and worst in people. We're seeing that now. This is interesting too. It talks about natural disasters produce stories of heroism, but also of looting and rioting. But the fact that natural disasters is highlighted in this, that's happening. This may be the moment you've been waiting for, that we've all been waiting for. This is the moment. Apparently, that's the influence though. So we got to read line 4. Line 4 is our change line right there. Friendly relations with different people can become critical. This is the Virgo influence, bringing good fortune in times of crisis. But if you depend on the support of others, you must keep their interest at heart as well as your own. Otherwise, misfortune results. So I'll let you guys deal with that. Now let's get into the solution. All right. So we've already established that there's a lot of pressure, a lot of tension, and that The explanation was that there's something about to collapse. The dam is about to burst. So that feeling then is one thing, but the solution or the way that you act is another thing. When you put the change line in, you get hexagram 48. This is water over wind, if you care, and it's called the well. We can enrich our lives by delving deeply within to tap our essential nature and reach the true source of spiritual nourishment. Harkening back to the moon, the T-square on the moon in Scorpio, this is another influence that can help you achieve the solution, which Scorpio can always go deep. Not that they ever want to. The unhealthy Scorpios resist that action of going deep inside themselves. All right. It says, beware of shallow thinking. Like a little learning, it can be dangerous. The image of the well suggests that going further within produces greater clarity. Be patient and you will penetrate your problems and your own nature as deeply as you can. Self-development is key to reaching down to tap the clear water. If you do not lower your bucket into the depths, you are likely to come up empty. So here's our conversion slide. And we have the T-square on the moon, and the moon currently is in 24 degrees Scorpio, which puts us at hexagram 43 in the rave, and it gives us the Libra solution for sidereal astrology. So hexagram 43 in the rave says the gate of insight. The knowing circuit is linked to our sense of hearing. So focus on listening this week. Breakthrough is not confused with the so-called third eye or sight in sight. This is the gate of the inner ear. Nothing is more difficult for individuals with this gate than to listen. They are the most difficult people to teach. So in the Law of One, they talk about the learning-teaching continuum. And this gate is going to tap you into, according to the rave, tap you into this learning-teaching continuum. On the one hand, you're going to be required to be teaching others, teaching yourself. On the other hand, you need to learn that this is one and the same. Is when you start teaching somebody something, that's when you really start learning. And when you're learning something from someone else, you're helping them to teach. All right, so going down into this breakthrough, it's a line. I can't remember which line that is because it got cut off, but it says breakthrough. In order for achievement to be maintained, a new order must be fairly established. Actualization and centering, that in breakthrough naturally establish both internally and externally a new order. Notice that it's not just out there. This thing specifically talks about a new order that has to be within as well. And that's because I can reflect on a lot of astrological alignments that speak to this as well. Specifically, Sun, Pluto, and Sun, Jupiter. Unique knowing that is both personally and collectively of value. So not only is it outside, the new order outside of us, it's also inside of us. As you change inside of you, that, according to this, will change outside as well. This is something we've always known as well in the mystical traditions. But it speaks specifically about the unique knowing, how you personally will know if you listen correctly and change your order, but the collective will know as well. Collective value. All right, let me take a break and we'll get the final slide ready for you. Breathing in and breathing out. This is how you can diffuse pressure and tension in your life. Breathing in, breathing out. Head to interzention.com for more on some services available to you. Welcome back, everybody. This is the tension meter. It is pegged this week, and we know that, and it's obvious, and it's already started. So here's the solution. We have the I-Ching, the well. Penetrate your problems with patience and willingness. We are already in that face everything and rise. It's in that same cycle. So that hasn't gone away because that's in that moon, that entire moon cycle. But we have the I-Ching that says go even deeper. Look for hidden deeper needs. The rave said gate of insight, line of breakthrough. In order for achievement to be maintained, a new order must be established. That sounds exciting, guys. That sounds really exciting. Unique knowing that is both personally and collectively of value. So your goal here, according to the rave, is listen. Make sure you're opening your ears. This is the hardest part of that gate, apparently. And so active listening and the depth of your listening is really, really important for your level of change in this period of time. Positive change. The Sidereal Libra, as we mentioned, is diplomatic, balanced, charming, romantic, peaceful and spontaneous. Can be vain, though, and selfish, indulgent. So here we go. Here's the overlap. A tough but potentially magical week awaits. We need the same strength and fortitude from last week, but now with the willingness to face problems head on. We shall lower the bucket into the well for better understanding, for more solutions, for inspiration, motivation, and ultimately joy. My prediction is if you refuse to do the deep well this week, you'll probably feel not only the pressure, but the emptiness associated with not getting the insatiable desire for understanding. So part of this is the joy and the knowing, but all sorts of motivations are there as well. Understanding is at the top of the list. This is where the rave offers insight and breakthrough. When you have lowered your bucket deep enough for personal breakthrough, lower it further to get the collective value too. It's both you personally and the world out there that gets the upgrade, that gets the new order. Okay? Be objective, harmonizing, balanced, adaptable, not a time to be detached, vain, selfish, indulgent. We are still in a grand cycle of face everything and rise in this week. Face everything and then dive deeper for insight and breakthrough. And the focus is on listening deeper, listening to the nonverbals. That doesn't sound right, does it? But nonverbal communication can be up to like 50% of communication. So be watchful of that. Dig deeper even. Sense from your soul what is being communicated. Focus on the emotions that are being communicated. After all, this is all hinged on the T-square on emotions. I had one more thing because we have this Libra insight. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Does it look retarded? That is generally this week, especially with the pressure and the tension. We're going to be wanting to fight it out. But with the Libra breakthrough, it's not going with that gut instinct of fighting it out and escaping your anger. It's about transforming it, going deeper into the knowing of who I am. And then with that Libra influence, it's being diplomatic. It's sharing love. It's sharing beauty and creativity and and seeing us as one people, human species, humankind. All right. All right, everybody. Well, hopefully the big transition starts happening, but if not, either way, we're all together in this, and I appreciate every one of you. And just speak your truth on the comments in Telegram. You're not going to be judged. Just speak your truth. But above all, we're here on this transformation together. We are one. Take care, everybody. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. But if not, could be good news, right? See ya.